Monday, December 1st, Fairmont Crest explodes into chaos like never before. Secrets long buried claw their way to the surface, alliances shatter in an instant, and the powerful Dupree family faces betrayals that could destroy everything they've built. Andre Richardson is cornered with no escape, Vanessa McBride's fury threatens to burn bridges beyond repair, and Vernon Dupree delivers truths so harsh they leave everyone reeling. Fans of Beyond the Gates, brace yourselves. Monday's episode is a relentless storm of anger, deception, and explosive confrontations that will leave you questioning who can survive the fallout. Under the dim glow of Fairmont Crest's chandeliers, the corridors hummed with soft whispers and secret glances, the kind of hush that promised danger. In the Dupree residence, the air weighed heavy, every polished surface and plush carpet felt like a stage set for betrayal, each echo a warning: trust no one, not even yourself. Andre Richardson paced the length of his study, the room's opulence doing nothing to soften his anxiety. The framed photographs of him and Danny on happier days stared back, but offered no comfort. In his mind, shadows lengthened and truths pressed in around him. He had believed, had convinced himself, that marrying Danny would seal a promise, stability, respect, and a clean break from his past entanglements. But now, with Derek Baldwin coming for him, there was no escape. Derek's arrival wasn't just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. He recalled the nights before, the phone calls late into the evening, the fleeting visits, the whispered apologies. Ashley Morgan had been a chapter he thought closed, sealed by his marriage. Yet Derek would demand answers. And Andre, trapped by his own moral code and fear, had no truthful path forward. To admit closeness sounded like betrayal, to deny it sounded suspicious. He tightened his fists, the guilt and dread coiling within him like steel cables. He had tried to bury the tension, but the foundation cracked, and the pressure seeped through. In the end, no wall could hold it back. He was being squeezed from all sides, by loyalty, guilt, and love, and not all of them could win. Downstairs in the grand living room, the house felt alive with silent conspiracies. Danny Dupree stood by the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass against the night sky. Images of that lunch at the country club replayed behind her eyes, polite laughter, perfumed air, the glances of other women assessing Vanessa. The words unspoken but sharp with judgment lodged in her mind. She believed in dignity, in appearances. She believed in legacy. She believed that an escort business was a disgrace to everything she stood for, their name, their family, their history. And yet, a deeper rumble of something darker reverberated beneath her indignation, uncertainty. For the first time, she questioned not just Vanessa's choices, but her own. Who was she to judge? What hidden corners of her own past might she fear to see? Her heart hammered, not with anger but with fear, fear that the structure she had built around herself, of loyalty and respect and control, might crumble. The titles, the lineage, the illusions of perfection, they were paper-thin, ready to tear at the slightest pressure. And if truth came, she was not sure the exquisite facade of the Dupree family could survive it. She rested her hand against the cold window, as though trying to hold the looming damage at bay by sheer force of will, but the glass was as unforgiving as the world outside. Elsewhere in Fairmont Crest, Vanessa McBride moved like a flame threatening to consume everything. Her fury was not loud. It didn't rise in shouts. It simmered. Her composure was the kind that shattered dinnerware simply by breaking her stare. She had made a decision, a business move, one she justified beneath layers of ambition and necessity. The country club had seemed the perfect cover, elegance, discretion, society's elite. To her, it was survival. But Danny's silent condemnation, cloaked in polite concern, felt like a blade sliding under her skin. Vanessa's reflection in the polished mahogany table looked calm, controlled. But inside, the resentment churned. The betrayal that stung the deepest was not Danny's judgment, it was the moment she realized that the woman she thought she could trust stood close enough to strike without warning. Trust was a currency traded by the powerful, and Danny had just devalued hers. Vanessa's fury was born of more than anger, it was born of betrayal, of fear, of the instinct to protect what she had carved out for herself. So she locked away the hurt, swallowed the outrage, and prepared. Her mind sharpened like steel. If she needed allies, she'd find them, or make them. If she needed silence, she'd wrest it from trembling lips. She would not be exposed. Not tonight, not ever. In another wing of the estate, Bradley Smith's footsteps echoed against marble floors. His arrival at the private suite of Joey Armstrong was not ceremonious, it was business. The IOU that hung over his husband had become his burden, heavy and unforgiving. He had come with purpose, armed with desperation masked as resolve. The cavernous silence inside Joey's fortress-like quarters welcomed him, as if acknowledging the gravity of what was to come. No words passed his lips. No threats were spoken. But the message carried weight: pay your debt. Smitty's mind raced through all possibilities: compliance, negotiation, deception. Every avenue seemed tainted. On one side was Martin Richardson, vulnerable, indebted, cornered. On the other was a man with blood ties to danger, with patience forged in fear and power. To refuse would invite retribution. To comply would sink them deeper into the quagmire. Either way, they were trapped. The IOU was more than a debt. It was a metastasizing chain, each link forged from fear, regret, and a promise that could never be fulfilled without pain. Smitty exhaled slowly, feeling the walls close in. There was fear, but beneath it a hardened surge of resolve. If the debt had to be paid, someone would suffer. And it would not be him. At the same time, in a distant corner of Fairmont Crest, the patriarch Vernon Dupree looked out over manicured lawns that gleamed under the moonlight. The estate was his domain, his legacy, the symbol of power, lineage, and control. Tonight, though, control eluded him. His thoughts circled like vultures, drawn to the rot beneath the veneer of wealth. Bill Hamilton was coming. Bill, a former son-in-law, had already tasted the bitterness of their rivalry. Now, another confrontation awaited. This time, Vernon would deliver truths, harsh, devastating, final. Words he had saved, sharpened, reserved for this exact moment. They would cut deep enough to fracture more than relationships, to fracture pride, to fracture illusions. In the grand hall, the silence screamed. Vernon's gaze remained fixed on the expanse of crystal, fine wood, and marble. The spoils of his ambition. But beyond the opulence, he saw the cracks forming, within his family, within his empire. The betrayal, the debts, the secrets, they were not just stains, they were explosives. And Bill Hamilton was the fuse he would ignite. Vernon's lips pressed into a firm line, his chest tightened, not with regret but with cold acceptance. Destroying someone dear to him might feel like a loss, but protecting the legacy? That was non-negotiable. Meanwhile, somewhere in the night, Ashley Morgan sat alone, enveloped in darkness thicker than cloth. Memories clawed at her, Andre's touch, the promises, the broken hush of decisions. She had walked away, thinking it was over. But now Derek Baldwin loomed, a specter of what could have been, or what still might be. Her heart twisted not from love but guilt, confusion, fear. She had tried to vanish from Andre's life, to become a memory. Yet that past refused to die. It kept reaching, kept tugging. And now, on the edge between her silence and Derek's pursuit, anxiety burned. She wondered if the secret she kept, dirty, dangerous, was worth the peace she chased. She wondered if silence could protect her after all. Across the estate, the corridors held their breath. The rooms seemed to shift under invisible weight. Every locked door, every sealed vault, every whispered rumor was a trap waiting to trigger. The foundation of Fairmont Crest trembled. Not from storms or wind, but from the accumulation of resentment, guilt, ambition, and fear. The wealth and lineage that had built it showed its cracks. The alliances formed on Friday cocktails and polite smiles crumbled under the dread of overdue debts and hidden sins. In the quiet that followed midnight, each character lay awake, haunted. Andrei felt the guilt and the inevitability swirl around him, choking him. Dani felt the tremor in her moral ground, the fear that her judgment might have blinded her to her own fragility. Vanessa felt the dark coal of betrayal burning in her chest, needing oxygen to ignite. Smitty felt the weight of the IOU like chains around his soul. Vernon felt the cold steel of dominance, the taste of power dangling over someone else's throat. Ashley felt imprisoned in silence, and Derek brooding outside the bars. No one slept. No one dreamed. In those sleepless hours, each soul turned inward, meeting the contours of their worst selves, and the flickering possibility that the next morning might not bring light, but ruin. By dawn, Fairmont Crest would no longer be just an estate. It would be a battleground. Love, loyalty, money, secrets, every one of them a weapon. And each character would step into the day not as themselves, but as adversaries of their past, prisoners of their own choices, and players in a game where the only rule was survival.